Okay, first of all, I want to let everybody know that I'm not a speaker, okay? But I'm pretty proud of my son. I have to say that. But yeah, I am tickled to be here because of the Lord, okay? Bottom line, the Lord does it all. So I had a grandpa that had 13 children, and they had 7 girls, and then, if you can imagine that, before their first boy. Number 8 was a boy, and after that they had 5 boys. So 7 girls and 5 boys. So Grandpa was, I'm just trying to put your mind into where I'm coming from here. He was a devout Christian, and Grandma must have, once she got, I'm just thinking a little ornery here, but once she got that first boy, she just loved the boys, okay? And that was noticeable until she died, because whenever Dad or all of the brothers were around a block, okay, or around like a 4-mile block, when they'd go into Grandma and I'd be with them, she was in heaven. You could just tell that. But anyhow, point being is, where it began was a God-fearing man, and I was fortunate to be. That is my heritage. So that's the most important of all, I believe. And and I'm not saying everybody needs to be that way, but I'm saying believe in God. God Almighty made everything, creator, and Clint brought that out very well. And I can't say enough to his glory, because how I met Dave, well then, I'm going to say my dad ended up purchasing that farm where he was raised, and it was 200 acres. But he got into hogs early, and he loved the livestock. And so he had the barns, and we started with, I can remember we had brought in some feeder pigs. Then he started farrowing. But anyhow, we raised, it just built from there, and we raised a lot of manure. And so when I was growing up, I worked a lot with the hogs, but I'm just not a livestock man. I didn't enjoy it. I really didn't. It wasn't in my heart. But it was good for me, because when I got off the bus, I didn't want to get off the bus because I knew I had to clean the barn out all by myself. This is with the straw. You spread the straw out. That'd be our chores, but I just didn't like it. So anyhow, when I started getting involved with the soil, Dad taught me to plant. I'll never forget. I loved it. I just loved doing that, filling the seed boxes, and we were using 1034 oil liquid then at that time. And anyhow, I loved farming, but we were dumping all of our manure on that 200 acres. And as we grew, we had pits. We had 5 confinement buildings, farrow to finish. Nursery was another one. But all that manure we put on that 200 acres. And so I was real frustrated. It was about the time I was getting married, and I wanted to do my, do the best, being a new dad. But our soil, our cap on the best year was 165. And the soil that we farmed was capable of way beyond that. And I was praying for 2 years. 2 years, I was praying and asking the Lord. And we were working with agronomists, Purdue. We had an agronomist that we had personally that worked with, but he was graduated from Purdue. Point being is, we had Purdue, we had our fertilizer man that was pretty educated, we felt like. And they all wanted us to put on more generic product. Potash was a big one, and phosphorus. Well, we know that hog manure has high phosphorus, so our soil, we could not get a good seed bed year after year. I don't care, a perfect year. The seed bed was just, it was cloddy. And that's the reason why we couldn't get any better yields than that. So, prayed for 2 years, and here, my brother-in-law, he was a farmer too, and he says, hey, there's a pro-farmer seminar. You want to go? And so we went. And that was in '87. And Jerry Carlson, I don't know if you knew, any of you remember Jerry Carlson, and his wife Jill. They had the meeting, and Dave Larson, first time I ever met him, he spoke with Dan Scow, which was a veterinarian from Wisconsin, I believe. Is that right, Ken? He was Dan Scow, and then Don Schrieffer was the Iron Man. Anyhow, he had those three speak. And when Don Schrieffer talked about the iron, getting air into the soil, and the different ways to do that. And then Dave spoke next on the soil. And he talked on the living entity of the soil. He brought forth how it's alive. And I never knew that. Nobody ever told me that. Nobody ever gave me an idea that it was, they say that in one spoonful of soil, there's more living entity than there is in the world. You can believe that, okay? That kind of blew me away. And then it was like, it was like Saul when he was converted over to Paul. That light, literally it did. In my heart, I just knew at that instant, that's what I've been praying for. And then Dan Scow got up there and talked about the animal and how the dairy farms were suffering because of the feed that they were feeding them was not the quality. It was just their immune system was broken. So anyhow, that opened my view, and so we started on the home farm, and then we just purchased another farm that we wanted to try it on. So anyhow, and we had another product, J&J Products. I don't know if anybody ever heard about that, but we tried them both on the home farm there, 80-80, and it was in 88 when we tried it. Anybody remember 88? It was a horrible drought. So it was a good test. It was a very good test for the products because the one fell out of bed, and Dave's products held with what we were already doing, which meant a lot to me. Dave told me, he says, give me 3 years and you'll see the structure of the soil change. Give me 7 years and dynamics are going to take off. And he come out, we prayed in the field, this is very early on when his first time out there at the farm. I'll never forget it, and that meant a lot to me, okay? So, boy, I'm making this a lot longer than what I should, Clint. So, we started on it, and we did that. We started 3 years on the home farm and the new farm, and we seen the clods disappeared. It doesn't happen overnight, believe me, it doesn't. But I believe through the prayer, through the, and I got to say, when I come home from that meeting, I'll never forget in the office there talking to Dad, and I farm with 2 brothers also, okay? So that makes a huge difference too. But so I came home and I was on cloud 9, and I'll never forget Dad just kind of shaking his head, like, oh boy. But he did. He trusted me enough to try it. So I thank him for that. But we got from 165, the soil changed, and I took a movie of it, and I should dig it up. I mean, this is 40 years ago. It was a VHS. You remember them big cameras? So anyhow, I took a video because this is before we harvested it, but it was just gorgeous. The rows, the consistency of the stalks and the ears, and I was just amazed. And we got 235 from that field. And so after that, we went 100%. We farmed about 3,000 acres, a little better. And we went 100% on that with Dave, and never regretted it. Now, I will say this. I was on fire for it. So when you're like that, you tend to, problems that occur, like plug filters was big time. It is even now if you're not careful, because sunshine, if you have a tank outside and you got some biologicals in there and you give that biological a little bit of food, and they go nuts and they start growing. And if you don't filter that out, you're going to have problems. And that's going to be when you're going through the field and you get halfway through the field, and that's when you got to stop. And I don't know a farmer alive that wants to do that. So, and we did. We had those problems. We had to work them out. But when you're on fire and you know you're on the right path, you can deal with it. You don't like it, but you can deal with it. And I'm trying to encourage you is that there's not a doubt in my mind. You wouldn't be able to persuade me any other way than this program. And this brother, I call them brothers, but Ken, we've known each other for many years, and I count him a brother. Of course, we're brothers in faith, and that's huge. But we were well blessed. And then Clint come along. Oh, we had 9 boys amongst the 3 of us. We had 9 boys. Every one of them worked on the farm. None of them had it in their heart to stick around. So that hurt, but that got us praying too. And I'm not going to talk about that testimony. That's another testimony in itself. But I just want to encourage, I know around home the farmers are suffering. I mean, they are, and when they see the corn prices come down, but, and it's tough. I remember that. I'm retired now, but I do remember that big time. In the 85, we just about hung it all up in 85 with high interest rates. So we hope the interest rates come down, and a lot of turmoil in the world, but trust in God. And you can't go wrong if you're willing to work. It takes a higher management. It does indeed take a higher management. There's a lot of farmers that don't want to do that. But I'm telling you, it's well worth it. Well worth it. So with that, I praise the Lord.